Welcome to the Adapt or Die podcast. This podcast explores ideas related to self-growth, finding meaning, and living a more fulfilled lifestyle. It's your host, with the most, Armel Tala.
And it's your host, on the low, Ben Smith. We're two college students on our own path of lifelong learning with the hope that you will join us in our journey. And now, it's time for the next episode of
The Adapt or Die podcast. Welcome to the first, is this the first discussion?
This is the first discussion episode.
So you know how in school you'd have, or at least if you're in college, we have things called discussion sections. This is your discussion section, but you're just listening to us discuss. But what's the topic today, Ben?
Guys, today we're discussing, we're just discussing never split the difference, so tactics of negotiation and influencing others, and just our thoughts on the book and any other tangents we might have thought of.
Yeah, this is less formal, a bit. It's been a while since we read it, though. Ben be cranking out books.
Yeah, I think I read this over Thanksgiving, maybe, and now today's January 4th.
Yeah, Ben cranks out books. I'm, pushing, my own self. So I've actually skipped ahead. So it's been a little bit since we've actually read it. Obviously, memory gets a little bad as time goes on. But, we recorded yesterday about the last second half. We have our notes here. We did a good refresher. But again, this is just informal. And yeah, I don't really have much to say. There's not really a way to start. You guys know the first episodes that follow these are straight to the point, informational. We get you what you want, what you need, what you want to hear. And this is just us blabbering.
Yeah, it's just us talking. So you can get to know us more in these episodes, get to know our thoughts more. I will say the previous episodes are more premeditated and much more concise in how we outline them. These, while we do bring things to talk about, this is almost as if we're thinking in the moment, like you're hearing our thoughts like real time. So we might be amending what we say and going back, and we're really just thinking about the book and trying to come to conclusions about it that we might have otherwise.
I'm excited to kind of hear how these progress and hear how the mind evolves. But with that being said, though, this is over Never Split the Difference. Chris Voss. Make sure you guys read it. Make sure you guys check out the previous two to get context. With that, Ben, you should start because Ben comes more prepared than I do.
Yeah, so the first thing I want to mention is we've kind of gone over a lot of books, this one included, that talk about listening, how important listening is. You need to actively listen, really pay attention to what someone is saying, take it in, maybe label it, summarize it, whatever. One thing that I found was interesting, I was on YouTube, can't remember when, and I saw a short of Simon Sinek, I think that's how you say his name, and he was saying that the goal of listening, you're not listening just to listen, and you're listening to also be the last person to speak. So you're not listening to not put your input in at all, but you're listening to help you give better input after someone else has spoken, and also make sure that you can hear someone else's opinion. Okay, and he made this very clear, like, don't listen to only listen. I said it like 3 times now, but what do you think of that idea?
Don't listen to only listen in to speak. That's interesting because in a way, it's like that idea I hear a lot, and also like I'm trying to get better at. It's like person that stays silent, say the least amount of words possible, be concise as possible. Because whenever you speak, it has weight to it. It's not that, it's like you said, it's not that you don't ever speak, but it's that when you do speak, people listen. They're like, oh, I want to hear what he has to say, right? And so if you're listening well, as this book talks about a lot, listening, you're trying to gather information, right? So if you're the last one to go, you get to hear everyone's perspective. You get to figure out like, okay, maybe this one's good, this one's bad, but then you get a more concise, like a more holistic opinion, right? And then when you end it off, like you're like, and especially if you can be articulate and you can just get to the point, it's like that's pretty powerful though. That is pretty powerful. That's all I need to add to my thing. But do you think like, I guess when you're like speaking, when you're speaking yourself, like how would you actually like grade yourself in terms of being like a speaker and how well you talk? Do you think you follow this rule well? or
Um,
this idea?
I would say that I would out of 10, I would say I probably listen. I'd say I'm like a 6 out of 10, maybe somewhere in the middle of the pack. I don't think I'm a great listener. I don't think I'm a bad listener though. I think
The
I give credence to people's ideas, but sometimes I will listen with the intent of thinking that like whatever I have to say is more important, and I'm just waiting for someone to finish and then put in my input, thinking that it's much more profound.
I that raises a question to me is like what is a good like what defines a good listener, right? And this question is especially raised for me because your boy is slowly getting back into I guess what you call a relationship or whatever. It's like
Or
we're
whatever.
talking oh no, she's gonna hear this, she's gonna be mad. Not whatever. It's a relationship. We're together. So yeah, but moving forward from that, Claire, don't be mad at me. But
He he has commitment issues.
no, no, I do not. I'm fine.
We can cut that out.
Yeah, no, no, you can keep that part. But so when it comes to like listening, like she told me, she said sometimes you always like listen, but always put like your 2 cents in at times, right? And like I was like, I feel like I want to believe I'm a good listener, but at the same time, I know I could be better. But that raises the question to me, like, what defines like a good listener? Like, what makes someone a good listener?
Yeah, I think one thing that's super important is like having an open mind, like a really open mind in the sense that like you go into what someone is saying thinking they have some real knowledge to provide here that I don't have, and I need to sit down as if I'm in a lecture or something and just open ears, listen, and not try to regurgitate what they're saying or just give them advice. I do that a lot. I'll listen to someone and then I'll take what they're saying and I'll be like, I have some real knowledge to provide here. And then I'll throw it back and like see if I can say something profound where they're like, "Oh my gosh, like you're so smart." Like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I feel like I do that a lot. Which is not that's not the
Well,
worst thing, but it's not something that's beneficial long term.
yeah, I know, because at times people, like she told me, times people just want to rant and talk, but it's like figuring out like where is that line, especially like in a relationship, because you just want to like the other person just wants to be heard, so it's like they just want you to listen, and that's why like being a
Yeah.
good listener. But to me, it's like I'm just so used to the fact that you said like you just hear someone addressing their problems, and I guess this probably does with the fact that like most of the time like people come to me just for advice or something like that. I'm very much used to just automatically going, hey, this is what you said. This is what I thought about it. This is what I've researched or what I've thought to be like the best way to handle it. So it's like working on that. At least that's to me is like
Where do you see yourself as like 1 to 10 for
on
listening?
listening. Actually, probably like a 5, maybe middle of the pack. Like I've been told I'm a good
I
listener.
think Mel's a great listener. When I first met you, I was like, you just like sat there and like listened. I don't know. It wasn't. I didn't feel like you were
I,
judging or like saying that. You were just like, wow. Like
yeah, no,
I appreciate that. Like you're giving input, and then you would just like give different input. But like I don't know. It was a good conversation.
no, yeah, I think like for me, it's I try to just like I'm very I think I'm a nice person. Overall like I'm a nice person, but I really hate the people that like are toxic in the terms like they're like me like they're just always talking. Like a lot of times when people ask me something like I all automatically want to like get them involved in the conversation because it's like I don't want it to always be about me. And I think that in terms like I guess I don't view myself as a good listener because like now reading all these books about listening, it's like okay, what is actually listening? Am I paying as much attention as possible? Am I paying attention to the right things? And I guess maybe it's like now I'm becoming more of a now I'm learning more, so I'm have more to give advice for. Like maybe I'm trending towards that way, but now especially when you like you come across smart people like Ben and other people like you're like oh they have actually interesting things to say. Like I want to hear what they have to say, but obviously I think just for the people that are listening, like you should ask yourself like what does make a good listener in your opinion and like what you actually do. Like you should be conscious about what is actually listening. Am I doing the best to listen? Because I would say listening is almost it really is like having to not have any of your own thoughts going. Like your all your thoughts should just be like what they are saying. So if like you're talking about I don't know some type of book only thing that should be going in my mind is like, okay, he said this book and ties to this and this, but like it shouldn't be like you generating a thought, but at the same time, it's like you also have to do that in order to have a conversation.
Yeah.
So like I'm confuzzled in my mind right now.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm honestly, I have nothing left to say about listening. I think we kind of hit it pretty well. Do you
Yeah.
have anything else to say?
No, I don't really have much to say about listening. Just if you're listening to us, then obviously you're a great listener. So, but on the next point, what else did you want to bring up?
The next thing was I wanted to highlight some of the, um, I guess, similarities that were discussed in Never Split the Difference and How to Win Friends and Influence People, because I think this book to me is like more of a, of course, it's not the same as How to Win Friends and Influence People, but it's almost like a modern day version of it, and that it's kind of updated some things we've learned and taken it to a more extreme level through extreme scenarios such as hostage negotiation.
I would say they have two different goals.
Yeah,
Like
no, it's true.
yeah, it's like the modern version, but with two different like intentions, right? Because like how to win friends and influence people, like the name clearly suggests, is like interacting with people, communicating, getting to know them, getting people to like you, and putting yourself in a position to influence just really means leadership. And then this book is about how do you speak to someone to get your way, really, to get like what you want, get the most out of that interaction you're having someone, specifically in the form where you guys are negotiating on something. But it just, to me, it does highlight, I think this was also something I jotted, like it's all just psychology, really.
Yeah, it's crazy how significant and how useful psychology is just to understand the basic practical ideas, you know?
Mhm.
I think you said that last episode. You were like, psychology is everything. You said something along those lines. I just
Yeah.
finished editing the video like a couple hours ago. So like,
It's like
yeah.
psychology is almost everything. But what were those similarities though?
So some of the big ones were making the other person feel important, listening, like we just talked about, smiling, uh, try honestly to see from the other person's point of view. So that kind of plays into empathy and perspective. Be sympathetic with the other person's ideas and desires. And then lastly, this is a quote from Dale Carnegie, but if you listen to the first episode, this should ring pretty clearly. When dealing with people, let us remember we are not dealing with creatures of logic, we are dealing with creatures of emotion, creatures bristling with prejudices and motivated by pride and vanity. So all of these seemed pretty clearly to me to be very similar in like their points on how to influence others, converse with others, and even negotiate to some extent from Carnegie's perspective. What do you think about those?
Which
Any disagreements?
I actually want to go through each, maybe like one by one, right? And just talk about them more. So make the other person feel important. And we talked about this, obviously in both ones, like last episode, in part two of negotiation was giving the person the illusion of control and stuff like that. And then this other one was like give them what was, how did
Give
he
them
say?
a fine
Fine.
reputation
You
to
know,
live up
fine.
to.
Like I don't know why I think like it's just because the book is written in that time.
It is,
I
yeah.
read it and I read it with like that type of, I guess, corniness or whatever. But to make the other person feel important, it really does just show like how much we really do, like, because whenever I'm put in a position where someone's like asking me questions or something, it's like you just feel so like nice. You're like, damn, I'm at the top of the world. I don't know how you feel about that, but
Yeah, no, it makes me feel I'm like, yeah, like I'm important in the world. Like people value me. Like I belong here. Like there's a reason that I wake up every day. Like type, and it's like those little things add up when people do simple things, just as like listening to you or complimenting you, and that makes you feel really important and feel like you're actually providing value to the world, and that gives meaning to your existence.
but there's also like this fine line as well that you can't really cross, because there's like making someone else feel important, but then there's like kissing ass.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that in How to Win Friends
Oh,
as
really?
well.
Yeah.
Yeah, we like if you're saying shit that is just it's like out of pocket, like it's clearly not true, or like someone doesn't believe you, then you might as well just be insulting them because it comes across as an insult. It's like it doesn't do anyone any good. You're just distancing the relationship.
Facts. And I mean, listening, we just hit at the beginning, so we'll skip that. But smiling,
We were just talking about this
yeah, we
actually.
were just talking about this. Growing up for me, I actually didn't really like my smile because I had a gap, right? And like, kids are pretty.
I
evil.
also had a gap.
Oh,
So
really?
I had I think at one point I had some friends. They called me like Bucktooth or something because I had two big teeth, and there's a gap in between them, and then they were sizably larger than like the rest of my teeth. Like they stuck out. Like they almost looked like double the size at one point. It was weird. But go on.
Damn, that's interesting. I say can't even tell. I guess the braces did you well, but yeah, no. I just think like for me, like I didn't smile that much. I mean, I like smiled, but I didn't really smile. I guess with my teeth, but that difference of like just smiling though, I don't understand what it is about that. Like smiling itself just changes everything in like a conversation or mood. Like whenever I do like talk like everyone, this is pretty obvious. Like we're not saying anything that's like super mind blowing, but it's interesting to like actually reflect and maybe think deeper about it. It's just that it changes everything. Like if you were to meet someone first time you meet them, like you, especially go on a Zoom call, like you meet like someone that's like, let's say you're meeting someone that's important, right? Like today, I met a professor that wanted to sponsor like my work on campus, right? And he came on, he was like smiling and like, cause I was nervous at first, cause I was like, oh shit, it's our first
Yeah.
time reaching out to a professor. Like, hopefully they don't think this is stupid. Side tangent, real quick. A lot of like CS professors. I actually had one CS professor reach back to me. He's like, "Yeah, my professional opinion on blockchain is closely related to this." He pointed to this other person, which simply meant like he just doesn't like it, which is really interesting. But so just in overall, I was just kind of nervous because I already got that rejection. I was like, oh damn, like we gotta make the most out of it. But he came on and he was nice. He was like, yo, Armel, and then he like all my other officers were there, and he also like called out all their names. And he was just smiling, like look positive, right? But if he would have came on, he was just like, hello, what do you want? There's just, something like that's not his accent. I'm just trying to make like a
Yeah.
like a scarier voice, but it's like it makes a whole big difference.
One thing that I realized while you're talking, which maybe makes me a bad listener, but um,
We're too conscientious, as Jordan Peterson would say. I just love the word he says, conscientious. Like
he said, if you listen to Jordan Peterson, he says conscientious like every single,
oh,
and he mentions it like I don't like within like every 5 minutes of everything he ever says. Maybe that's an over exaggeration,
yeah.
but
What were you saying?
um, when I hear the word body language, I guess that's two words. When I hear body language, I often think of like shoulders or like general posture. But when you talk about smiling, it made me realize that it probably. And I wonder how much of your quote unquote body language is actually your facial expression.
Mm,
Because I mean, you're talking like smiling, right? It's like you see. We talked about this with the 738-55 rule of like 55% of your communication is your body language. I wonder like if that like just the initial smile is what I mean. I know it's communication, as in like I'm glad to be here. I'm excited to see you. I'm glad we get to talk about whatever it is we're going to talk about. But I'm just wondering like how much of your facial expression in particular, just like I wonder how much of that is your body language, and then what portion of that makes up your entire communication.
I feel like your facial expression is almost tied with both like your body language because you make a good point. It is a part of your body language because your face is a part of your body. But as well, like it's also tied with a tone. I think if you're like smiling and you're in like you have like a better facial expression, like a happier facial expression, a more welcoming facial expression, like your tone would probably be more welcoming. Because if it's like I was like, hey yo Ben, like, and I'm just like, oh, my face is upset and like frowning, I'm probably my tone of voice is probably gonna seem like gonna match that. But when someone's smiling, like it goes hand in hand. So like you seeing that smile, I guess that's why a smile is so powerful. That we're connecting the dots.
Must be, yeah.
It's like it connects that. So what we said, it was 7% that was the words, but then the rest is you have 93% that is all really can be like a smile can attribute to all that 93 from the tone of your voice to your body expression. You're smiling, you probably got your shoulders up, you got your you look more confident and things like that. So man, smiling is powerful actually.
It really is.
Now that we dive deeper into it.
Yeah, I mean, actually, one thing that was interesting, I was listening to a video, listening to Daniel Kahneman, this is kind of related to our next book, but we probably won't talk about it. But he said that if you put a pencil in between your mouth, like horizontally, and then watch a cartoon, you'll actually laugh more because your body is already smiling in that kind of position. You'll actually be more primed to be happier and laugh more, which is interesting. Like you didn't do anything except just change your body position.
Yeah,
that makes sense. So I don't know, weird
the
things.
mind is weird,
Very
man.
strange.
Like we got to read a book that's completely over our heads but over like neuroscience and stuff, like it's gonna be completely over our heads. So maybe
You can make the outline on that one.
yeah, nah, that's you, bro. You're the scientist here, man. I'm just the business person. Nah, but
CS major looking at.
this is a business person, bro. No, but definitely have to, cause like mine is crazy. All right, but so try to see things from the other person's perspective. Like they said, try honestly to see things from the other person's point of view. I want like the thing I have to say about this is again back to relationship. Claire's getting mad. Shout outs here. But like a lot of times like I appreciate someone that like push back on things I say because that's what I want. I'm like I don't just want to hear like oh yeah say you're right you're right and stuff like that, right? And a lot of times when she will push back or anyone does push back, like it's like that you get like that punch in your gut almost like I'm wrong like what? And so but it's that moment like how do you react on that like when that happens when you hear that pushback?
I mean, my initial gut reaction, I was always like, "Man, come on now!" Like, so I was like, "Man, what are you talking about, bro?" But then secondly, I try to like step back and just go like, "All right, what are they saying? Why are they saying this? What is their perspective on this? How am I wrong?" Because usually, if you ask like the simple question of like, "How am I wrong?" you'll find a lot of good answers. Of course, that doesn't mean that I don't argue and try to push my point because I'm always right. But yeah, well, I mean, what do you like? What do you usually do when someone says
So
you're
you
wrong?
just
What do you just?
not even that like you're wrong. Sometimes it doesn't have to be like you're wrong, that direct, but it could be you're saying one thing, right? You have like this one point of view and you're just listening to them, but then they have a completely different point of view on something. You're just like, ooh, like you're like damn, like that's
Yeah,
very much different than I hear it. But it's like first you take that punch in the stomach, and then you just have to sit and listen. You just take that punch like, you bite your tongue, you don't say anything, and I guess really working out understanding like you have to just put in perspective. I guess what helps me is like I just try to tell myself and remind like not that smart. You're like you don't know anything, you don't know everything. I think there's like a great quote from like Socrates or Aristotle. They say those that are you I'm gonna paraphrase, but it's on the line of people that are actually smart are like those that actually are intelligent know they don't actually know everything. Those that know they don't know in a way, right? That's my own
yeah,
paraphrase. Because it's like there's so much information out there. Like science like can tell you some truths, but a lot of it is one theory, right? Just that they've proven it over and over again, but they can't like make it a law. And then second is that science is always trying to disprove itself, right? So they never actually think that I'm right because if they did, we would never actually evolve. They would never try to like disprove what they already think or think differently. So, that helps me put in perspective that I could possibly be wrong. There's a rule in Jordan Peterson's book, like, um, I'm currently on that chapter right now. It was rule number 9 of the person you might be speaking to might know more than might know something you don't.
yeah.
And so like just having that in mind when you're speaking to someone, when you're listening to them and they say something that might contradict what you're saying, like that might help bring you back and like take that punch and be like, okay, let me hear their reasoning why, how they reason through this, and then you work your way up from there.
And one thing that always helps me at least is I've kind of tried to flip my perspective to this idea that people who are ready to change their beliefs, people who are ready to search for the right answer, not their answer, um, those are the people who are the most courageous, the most intelligent, like have the most strength, right? People who are only trying to confirm their side of the argument, only trying to see their opinion, those are the people that are fearful. They're not strong enough to look at things objectively and get over their pride. And they're so afraid of being wrong and how that will discredit them that that gets in the way of them being right in any sphere, I guess. So kind of flipping that perspective of like changing your perspective is actually a pro. It's actually a point for your character, not against your character.
Yeah, no, definitely, because we all know or we all hear, and if you are, an OG, a boomer. We all hear about those boomers that are like very stuck in their ways and won't want to change. And someone told me it was, they said death allows for innovation, which is a well, if you actually dissect that
There's a lot there.
Yeah, there's actually a lot there. If you dissect that in literal sense, like when people die, because imagine if we still had the people from, I don't know, the Civil War. We still had the people from like Great Britain back in the day
Yeah.
or Egypt. Like they would still want to, one, hold their power, but two, like hold their way of thinking. Like the older you get, the more like strong in someone's belief is. So just literally death itself causes, the next generation to come up with, their newer ideas. They see things differently than their parents and their grandparents. But then when you're talking about I guess in the metaphorical sense, it's like you have to be willing to kill ideas or ways of thinking that you had before if you want to innovate. I think like Elon Musk, he said, why did people, like the way people thought about rockets or the way people thought about manufacturing cars, like if you just believe like, okay, this is how you have to manufacture, this is how manufacturing goes, or this is how rocket building is, like you just have to buy these parts separately, but you don't actually think from first principles and work your way up from there, like you may never think of it differently. So like death brings innovation, is it actually really is that powerful.
No, it really is. I don't have anything to comment on there. Actually, good analysis, Mel. I have nothing else to say.
Awesome. Thank you. One day I'll become a philosopher. I'm actually thinking though, like I think I will go back and get my PhD. I'm debating like, should I do both economics and philosophy or just philosophy? I don't
You
know.
shouldn't do 2 PhDs unless you ain't got shit else to do.
Yeah,
Which
I'm talking about when I'm old, bro. When I ain't got nothing else to do.
you might want to. Well,
Hey,
yeah,
hey.
we'll see.
Don't stop the ambition. Hey, y'all, keep dreaming, man. Don't let Ben kill your dreams. Okay. Be sympathetic with other person's ideas and desires. That really goes with what we talked
Just
about
talked about,
before.
yeah.
But the last one, the quote, this quote's really, I like this because I just have one thing to put to it and then I want you to run with it. But when dealing with people, let us remember we are not dealing with creatures of logic. We are dealing with creatures of emotion, creatures bristling with prejudice and motivated by pride and vanity. I mean, one, we're reading 12 Rules of Life. Jordan Peterson, he's a psychologist. And then we're also reading, what is it?
Daniel Kahneman's Thinking Fast and Slow. Is that
Thinking
what
Fast and Slow. Yeah,
Okay.
Thinking Fast and Slow. So we're reading a bunch of psych books, but just the fact that keep emphasizing this, like we are not emotional creatures. Even read an investment book. Hey, we are emotional creatures. Behavioral investing is going to save you. It just makes me really, like I said before, it's almost like I'm like, man, maybe I should major in psychology. But at the same time, it's like, no,
Yeah.
no, I wouldn't. Love the psychologists. They do great work. They do great work. But that's just to tell, like, psychology is so important, man. Like, it is so important. I always wondered why before, like, when I was trying to learn about business and stuff, like, people would mention, like, you should read psych books or things like that. I was like, why would I read psych books? If I want to do that, I'll just become a psych major. But psych majors don't go into business. I don't
Now
know.
you know.
That's It's crazy. It's actually crazy though, because like once you understand, like one, you see yourself differently, and then you see other people differently as well.
Yeah, and a big thing for me is I used to kind of put rationale and logic above all else, especially in high school, in the sense that like logic was king. Emotions, whether I feel sad or angry, is irrelevant. Um, but I've kind of come to this idea that like we have emotions for a reason, right? Emotions are they're very helpful in a lot of ways, and um, Jordan Peterson kind of touches on this in his book. Like your emotions are they're telling you something, even though you might not logically understand what's happening. If you feel some type of way towards someone, or you feel some type of way about something, those emotions are trying to tell you something about the world, right? And so, this is kind of like not totally related to what you were talking about, but I don't want people to think that we're trying to diss emotions or that we're putting emotions down because that's not what's happening. What we're trying to do is separate spheres of knowledge where emotions are useful and useless. And it just so happens that for what we're talking about in finance and negotiation, that it's very helpful to separate the two. And in finance, we don't want to use emotions because it doesn't really work. But in negotiation, we do want to use emotions because that's how you make decisions. And this might not be true, but I'm pretty sure it is. I think it's legitimately impossible for you to make a decision without having emotions. I think it's like actually they've proven that. Like I'll have to get back to you on that one, but like that is so interesting.
Yeah, I totally believe that because as I'm, as I'm making my own decision, I'm becoming more aware about this, and I'm becoming more, shout out to Jordan Peterson, conscientious. I'm also like realizing you'll have all the logic and reason down into why you should do XYZ, but for some reason your brain is telling you do the complete opposite of what is like might be best for you, right? But when you have like an extra added like emotion, it's like kind of like what motivation is, right? So what real like motivation is when someone, you want to like, let's say you want to like lose weight or something, or you want to eat better, like you logically know yourself, like I should be eating better, I should, go exercise, or I should do XYZ. But you don't like until you have like that burst of emotional motivation, like something that deep down that really hits you, that makes you be like damn, like I really got to do this. Like maybe you see someone die of a heart attack, or you see someone, just whatever you might see that might hit that emotional nerve. That's when the logic aligns. When the logic aligns with the emotion, that's when it's best. And I think that's why they always tell you like you want to make decisions when you're happy. Because I read something, I don't know if it was the negotiation book. I think it was actually, Chris Voss said, you make your best decisions when you're, in a good mood. He said that, right. So, and it's not because when people say like you don't want to be emotional and negotiate, like you want to leverage the other person's emotion in a negotiation. You yourself want to keep your emotions as like under control, but mainly not that you don't have emotions, but that your emotions is on the positive. You want to keep yourself in a good mood, because when you're thinking clear, you're happier, you make better decisions, right? So, but that is an emotion, and that's when your emotion aligns with your ration and logic. Because if your emotion is I'm happy, I'm good, I can, think more clearly, and I see things more optimistically, then you start to ration things better. Like your logic and everything starts to align. So that's kind of like the way I see it.
I might make a distinction. You feel free to disagree with me on this, but I think you make your best decisions when you are content, not necessarily happy, in the sense that if you're overly excited about something, that'll actually lead you to make wrong decisions. Whereas if you are in a positive mood, um, I would describe it as joy rather than happiness. Uh, Joy just being like satisfaction with who you are in the moment at present. That allows you to think clearly, quickly, and effectively. Just thought I'd make the distinction because I know sometimes I get overexcited about things, and like we were talking about, for some reason I want to double major in like engineering and computer science, which is a terrible idea. Like you shouldn't do that. Like don't do that ever. Like that's a awful idea. And I'm not doing that anymore. So
It's like the same where I was like, I should probably add that econ minor, and I'm rethinking it. I don't, because I think I was like on a Naval like tear reading,
uh-huh.
listening to Naval, and he just mentioned like microeconomics. I'm like, well, why not just throw it on there? Like I'll take 5 classes. It's like, well, Mel, you're also trying to run 2 orgs and
Have
do
a
other different
podcast and
things and a
yeah.
podcast and everything like that. So, um, that is true. Content would be the best. It's when you're level playing, like you're more like obviously you're enjoying your day. You're more on the positive side on the emotional, I guess, scale. But it's not like overly happy, over what they call it, euphoric.
Right.
It's a great
Exactly.
word. It's a great word. But we hit it. We hit those points well. It's a good conversation. Just dissecting them. I'm liking this discussion thing so far.
It's very nice. We just kind of go at our own pace and we just say what we want to say. It's much more, it's much, not that making the podcast is stressful at all, but at points it's like, oh wait, am I saying the right thing? Do I have, I only have a minute and a half, or like, it's like, oh, like I don't want to like go over time. So this is
Yeah.
nice to just to like relax.
Yeah, I never stress on the podcast. I always just say what I say, and if I say it wrong, you gonna correct me. Take someone on TikTok gonna correct, because they always
That's
do.
true.
Even if
But
you say it right and you tell them like this is the source, they're like I don't care. You're like
facts.
okay, but so here you have that there is some differences between How to Win Friends, Influence People, and Never Explain the Difference.
Yeah. The first one, this is definitely the most clear one. In part 3, rule or principle number 5 of How to Win Friends and Influence People, he says, get the other person to say, quote unquote, yes, yes, immediately. Whereas in Never Split the Difference, one of his big rules, and I actually think this is one of the most important lessons from the book, if not the most important, beware yes and master no. What do you think about this idea? Why do you think they differ? And are these two ideas actually contradicting?
Yeah, trying to remember if that was as far as I read. I need to reread How to Win Friends, Influence People. Great book to reread. I need to reread Never Split the Difference. Kind of like the wants, but one, they're different because of the time period. I think Voss said like for a while people thought like yes, getting people to say yes, yes, or like those yeses were the most important. Chris Voss is, like you said, the modern version of How to Win Funds, Influence People, but with with a little bit different intention. Almost insane. Actually, influencing people is negotiating. So like same intention, but How to Win Friends is more like holistic in terms of
Yeah.
really interacting with people, right? But I would say like the time period when they were written, that's probably why. But I think also with the idea of like what again their purpose is, right? With negotiating, he's really focusing on, you want to say that no because you want to have the person establish like their line. You want to make them feel like they're in control, because when you say no, because I do have actually a hard time saying no, because like sometimes I'll be like, I want to say no to this person, and like, but when you do say no, like yeah, I told him no. I told him no. Yeah, I ain't gonna do it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna do it. But yeah, so that's the difference. But with like saying yes, yes, I guess when you're just naturally dealing with someone and interacting, if you can get like the genuine like yes, yes, like hey guys, like, do y'all want to go eat some food? And everyone's like, you're like, y'all want to go eat some like Chick-fil-A, or y'all want to go eat some Canes, or everyone's like, oh
Canes.
yes, 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 yes. The only reason I said Canes for Ben.
Hot take: Canes is better than Chick-fil-A. Don't argue with me.
That is a terrible take. First off,
It's not your take. It's a hot take.
I eat Canes. I eat Canes with Chick-fil-A sauce. That's how superior Chick-fil-A is. That I gotta use Chick-fil-A sauce just to make Canes good.
I have to eat cane sauce with Chick-fil-A just to make me even want to go to Chick-fil-A. Just as a side note, Chick-fil-A is not a restaurant. It's actually an appetizer. Just if you didn't know it. When I go to Chick-fil-A, it's like a snack. It's like I'm going to get I'm like, oh, like this is a cute little chicken nugget. Like, let me get 8 of those. Oh, we're done. Then we get some real food at Cane's, because that'll fill me up. You know what I'm saying?
Man, I almost want to go get some food, and I'm hungry. I actually am hungry.
You'll be hungry after you go, though.
Nah, but what is your point of view on these differences?
Yeah, this is interesting, because in How to Win Friends and Influence People, he mentions that he says, this is like quote, a no response is a most difficult handicap to overcome. When you have said no, all your pride of personality demands that you remain consistent with yourself. And then he also elaborates, talking about how when you say no, there's physical, emotional, other reactions within your body that kind of move with you in that way, and kind of push you to keep saying no in the future. And first of all, I kind of question where he got that information, because it's like in the 30s.
Carnegie? Oh.
Yeah, he's like in the 30s. So I was like, I wonder how much he really knows about this. But I actually do think they're contradicting. And I think that getting someone to say yes at the outset does have its place. But I think getting someone to say no in the beginning can actually be more helpful and more beneficial. I think I was listening to Chris Voss. He gave a lecture. He was trying to get a famous author to come to his class at USC and talk and give a lecture and kind of make a guest appearance or whatever. But he was known for like not doing any type of appearances or whatnot. And he went to one of his book signings, and he knew he had about maybe all of 8 to 10 seconds to convince him to come to his book signing.
Yeah.
And what he did, he asked one simple question. He went up to him and he said, would it be a ridiculous idea if you can give a guest lecture at my class at USC? And then the author immediately just said, he looked at him for like 5 or 10 seconds, and then he gave him his secretary's card and said, contact me later and we'll discuss the details. And like that was done. And that's a weird, because what he was doing was he was giving a no-oriented question, right? Mm-hmm. Would it be ridiculous for you to come give a lecture at my class at USC? The answer he's looking for is no, right? And so that was interesting.
Yeah, I'm over here thinking too, like I'm reaching out to people. I need to reread these books just because I need to apply this to really see how well they work, right? Because it's like you hear it, but there's like a difference when you like read it, kind of mindful of it, but then rereading it and then really going back and applying it. Like I'm really interested. I don't know. I feel like I really love reading these books, man. It makes me excited, bro. Like you see all these books in the back. I'll be honest with you, I haven't read most of them on the back. What I got?
And you read?
I read 2 of them. 2 of them. Never Split the Difference and the Rise of Bitcoin and Blockchains, right? But like I got so much more. but there's just so much to learn, and but then like applying it, right? Because what's the point of knowing if you ain't gonna ever do anything
Yeah.
with it? Yeah, but nah, you're right. There's that contradicting of it. That no is powerful because it's like, because when you asked me that question, I was like, oh yeah, he's definitely gonna say no. I was just waiting for the story to come. I was like, he's gonna say no. He said
Yeah.
no, but he gave him the card. Like, that's different because it'll just be like, is it ridiculous? He's like, well, it's not ridiculous, and it's like, okay, well, come on, let's make it happen.
When he said that line, you know what I immediately thought of?
But
I was thinking like you could make that a pickup line, but like not like that exact line, but like you could like do the same type of thing. Like, would it be crazy if you, me, and or you'd be like, would it be crazy if you, me, how would you say this? You and I had dinner Friday night at 8 or something like that. Like just something weird. I don't know, like something more edgy, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe maybe. Hey, I'm not saying this to anybody, but would it be ridiculous if me and you went and like whatever line you finished with? But
Yeah.
This ain't pickup line 101. This is talking about negotiating 202.
Boy, huh?
With the last part though. So what you got here? Principles number 1. What is this? Begin with a.
Oh yeah.
Begin with a praise and honest appreciation. And
so this was part 4, principle 1 of how to win friends and influence people. Begin with praise and honest appreciation. And I just wanted to compare this to an accusation audit, and how different or similar, or if they were actually contradicting or if they were like really made for separate scenarios.
I think they're separate. Because when you begin with praise and honest appreciation, I'm walking up, I'm like, yo, Ben, we killed that last video, fam. Like, yo, recording your TikTok, you had about 5 of them blow up, my boy. You picked the right ones. All right, so that's different. That's different than if I walk up, I'm like, yo, Ben, like, I'm a slow reader. I can't, I have to stop every time. I get distracted easy, man. Like, I'm a terrible person. That's different because it's like, one I'm giving you is directed towards you, praise and appreciation. But I would hope, the person in acquisition and auditing the other person. So I think like they have different places when you want to use them.
I mean, because one of the uses, the reason I put it there was because one of the uses of begin with praise and honest appreciation was kind of like the compliment sandwich. It's like, bro, Mel, you are killing it on the podcast, bro. I really appreciate it. But like, if you could just make sure you get everything in on time, like, man, we would be great. Like, the last TikTok you uploaded was killer, bro. It was kind of like this weird like compliment sandwich. I just made that up like on the spot, but like, it's kind of like I started with praise and honest appreciation. Like, nothing I said was false, right? But then I was kind of sliding in like a weird criticism of like, could you do this? And then finishing off with like, because if you did, it would be amazing because you're really good at it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas Chris Voss kind of comes in and he's like, and he would something more of like, Mel, look, I'm an asshole, right? Something like that. Yeah. And then he would say something that is like, but I need you to do this, or like, I can't do this for you type thing. So it's like, I was wondering what you thought about kind of like that angle.
Which approach to take? I feel... I think those have to do with the relationship you have with that person, and again with his, since it is so specific with negotiation, I think like maybe your first interaction, your few interactions with someone, like maybe you're negotiating with someone that just first time, because usually whenever you're first meeting someone, you guys negotiate, but then you guys establish a relationship where you guys just know what the terms should be with you guys working together. So it's like maybe like the first time where you want to use that acquisition audit when you guys are hashing that out. But then like when you develop more and more of a relationship, right? I feel like maybe that compliment sandwich just kind of comes in because, you've already told them like, hey, I'm an asshole, or I'm this, I'm XYZ. It's like, okay, why do you keep telling me this every single time you want me to do something? So I think maybe the compliment sandwich is like a long-term solution, and the acquisition audit is that first couple of times you're interacting with someone.
I think that's a good rule of thumb. I think I like that. Like when you first meet someone, like when you're trying to come to terms, use the accusation audit to kind of, I'm not sure how to explain why.
It's like you're kind of establishing ground, establishing like
but then as we get closer, then it's like clearly Mel has made up his mind about whether I'm an asshole or not. So me saying it is not going to change anything. I might as well just like give him a compliment and lift him up and then hope for the best.
Because People are interesting, man. I don't know,
People
cause
are interesting.
just gonna have to keep reading more psych books. Y'all are gonna be knowledgeable in psych, man. Cause I'm definitely getting more interested and interested. Only reason why I couldn't do psych as like a major or take a class is just I'm too lazy to write papers when they tell me to write it. Cause I'm like, oh man, I gotta write a paper, but like
Facts.
but I want to like write a book. It's just different because I want to do what I want to do.
Right.
Yeah, but I think that's a good point. What else we got here? Don't compromise.
I think we talked about that enough. We talked
Yeah.
about it yesterday. I don't really have anything else. I put it on there before we talked about yesterday's or part 2. So
Okay.
so do you want to talk about 5 or no?
I'm down. The beauty of open-ended questions, they solve your
Because we
problem.
talked about this, but
Yeah, we did talk about them. People are much more strongly attached to their ideas. So when you're asking those open-ended questions, you're getting them to put out their own ideas to make them think. Keyword, make them think that it's their idea. I don't know, man. Like, it is true though, because whenever you get like those short responses, I don't know, they're not like as satisfying. At least to me, it's not satisfactory. It's like you ever talk to someone like trying to get to know them or something, and they're just giving you short. This is in different contexts. This is getting to know someone. This is like getting someone to think of their own idea. But like, you're even just talking to someone and they're just giving you short responses. Like I hate that.
it's true.
I'm like, it's because I'm the type of person I elaborate on everything I say. Though, like I'm a instantly like you talk to me like you gonna know my life story within like 2 weeks almost. Like that's really just how I am. Because when I decided to
Yeah.
like open up to someone, I'll just be like, cool. Like because to me, I just see it in the way it's like whatever. You're gonna see my life, but you don't really know who I am. You still don't really know. So
Right.
it's interesting. It's and what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, I think that if you can ask open-ended, calibrated questions correctly, it could be one of the most beneficial or one of the best skills you can learn. But I think it's actually much more difficult. I think it takes a lot more practice than even I realized. I kind of thought it would be kind of easy, but then a lot of times when I was in conversation, even just with my family or whatever, and I was thinking about these tactics, like how could I drop in mirroring or labeling or calibrated questions, it was much more difficult. It's so unnatural to just try to force some tactic like that because I've never really done it before, and so it feels weird.
Mm,
So I think it has a lot of benefit, and I think, like you said, it's really nice when someone kind of goes on a tangent about your question because a lot of times when you're asking someone a question, you have extremely limited information about their life, and your question is not so much to ask them. You're not looking for the answer to that question in particular, so much as you are looking for just to learn more about that person. And most of the time, if you give an open-ended question, that allows the person to give you the information really that you want to know because they know what's important about themselves and
mhm.
they will talk about that because that's what they want to talk about.
No, yeah, and those that asking questions because I'm listening to Lex Friedman, and he talks about like he gets some criticism from like his friends like Joe Rogan and stuff that tell him like you got to work on asking your questions. You're not like that great of a person to ask questions, and it's like you would think it's that you're just like asking questions. Like everybody knows how to just ask a question, but it's like do you not ask a good question? And we should read the book that I actually read for my art of asking questions class. It's called. I think the book was called The Art of Asking Questions. But we should definitely read that
We
and
should.
talk about it. But no, like I think over time, hopefully, the goal with this podcast is we eventually get the authors to come and talk to us. Obviously not in this ranky shankety apartment, but
We're moving up in life though.
we're moving up in life slow. Y'all about to be amazed. Y'all gonna be like, damn boy, yeah, y'all stepping up. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. But yeah, no, like I think over time, one developing that skill though, it's huge, man. Like it's huge. You know how to ask good questions because I get a lot of times that people ask say like, "Oh yeah, you know how to ask good questions," and I think for me, like I still have so much more to learn about how to do it properly. But it's like it is one listening. Like listening is like how you do get to asking good questions. You need to for me like when I'm asking my questions, I'm trying to like extrapolate something specific from what they said and have them elaborate on it. So when I'm listening to someone, I'm like listening and be like, okay, this is something. Okay, cool. Like whatever, whatever. But then you like find that something that's just like either interesting to you or that like you can like you have something further you want to know about and like the way you frame that though because you have to one find the right thing to ask, two you have to frame the question in a way where they can't answer it just very short-sighted and you give them enough room to be able to expand on that question. So like those are like almost like for me like the two steps of how I think about it without really thinking about it. But no, yeah, like over time, hopefully we'll get better at that and like talk to a bunch of people, really smart, cool, interesting people, and yeah, just get better asking questions, man.
Yeah, no, I would love to be able to ask questions that are just so like when you ask you know when you ask a good question too, because it'll like make someone think and they just give you the exact answer they're looking for, even if you don't know what it exactly should be. You get that answer and you're like, yep, that's. Or
Yeah,
you know when you listen, Lex asks really good questions because like, he'll ask a question, I'll be like, dang, that's a good ass question. Like,
yeah.
I wish I had thought of that question. Like, it's like I'm almost jealous of Lex's like questions. It's kind of
Nah,
weird.
yeah, like it's crazy. This the whole like with this podcast scene though, like coming up and everything, because it's like people are tired of hearing the news and people want to just hear like good conversations that aren't filtered or made BS. Because what if you want to get it filtered, get some clips of it and stuff like that. But no, there's a beauty in long form conversations, and that's I guess why we're having this discussion. We
Exactly. Yeah.
get y'all the information, but get y'all the discussion. That might be them. Some people might. I have a feeling like some people might even like this part more.
Yeah, I think hopefully I enjoy this more and I enjoy talking about it more. So
Yeah,
I hope y'all enjoy it.
I enjoy it. I enjoy it. All right, but see, you got one last bullet point. I told y'all I don't come prepared. All you guys want to hear my notes? These were my notes. Surprisingly, mirroring actually works. You just can't use it the whole time, like the book makes you feel. Certain phrases can be mirrored. Certain phrases can't. It makes people feel. Didn't finish that point, but I brought. But I brought this one, making me realizing that psychology might be the most useful thing humans can learn. Like I mentioned before. I guess really quickly on the whole like actually mirroring work. Did you try it on your family?
I so it definitely works better on strangers, for sure. Because when you're with your family, people talk about like very like specific things, and it's like you can't just like
Feel like, oh,
yeah
when grandma
yeah
went down the stairs, you're like, huh?
yeah you
You're
can't just
like,
be
you don't
like
remember
yeah
that?
like people it doesn't work definitely something you have to do with strangers for the most part, or if it's someone you know talking about something that you really have
Don't
nothing
know.
you have no knowledge of it. That happens with my roommate and I. He'll talk about like Iron Man stuff because he ran Iron Man, and it's
Yeah,
like he
yeah,
knows
that's
things
true.
about like running and exercise and diet that I just like haven't even thought of in my life. And so I'm just like, and I'll just like, he'll say something and I'll be like, and I'll just repeat the last word of what he says, and he'll just go off on a whole new tangent because it's a crazy, idea.
There's
And
depth. And pulling real quick on, I guess since we're talking about human and community, these books are about communication, improving your communication skills. I want to like I think I've told you this too about how like conversations work in communication because when we first learned how to win friends and influence people, he was like, you want to be just listening and ask people questions because people like to talk about themselves. Sometimes I took that too literal. I think I was like trying to talk to someone and I was like asking a bunch of questions, but they're like, man, it feels like I think one person was like it feels like an interview. One person said that, but then also it's like it doesn't really go that far because yeah, if people feel like they're being interviewed, it's like bro, like
kind of close off.
yeah, it's kind of weird. It's like, especially if you're just trying to bond and connect. So then I ended up watching this other video way later on that talks about like a conversation is like, a conversation really is a balance of two people talking about themselves. So you and another person are talking about yourselves, giving y'all's own input, but fairly, right? Sharing that proportionally and stuff because you can't just ask questions, but you have to add on to what they're saying. But so this is my theory with my idea with conversations is that so like the depth, the how much you know someone will like directly correlate to like the depth of that conversation. Because so an idea with when you're talking to someone is that you pick specific things to branch off on. It's like I can't remember what they called it, but it was like conversation branching or divergence or whatever, right? So it's like Ben says, "Yo, I just want to hoop today, and then I got these new shoes. They sick. There was some PGs, and I crossed somebody up, right? So went and hooped, some PGs, crossed somebody up, right? So there's like some obviously those are more like already tied to basketball, but I could go and like, oh yeah, like either I can go with the first one, hooping, like, oh yeah, like the previous day I went and hooped, and I can talk about something completely off top, not
Hmm.
not related to what he said, but it's related to hooping. But then he could talk about shoes, and I can be like, go into depth about like, oh, you got those basketball shoes. Like, oh, I actually got some like, maybe you could just talk about dress shoes or something completely different, but it ties to that conversation. And then like crossing somebody up, we can talk about how Ben got crossed one day. Well, you remember that dude that threw between your legs?
I'm not gonna lie, he got me. Hey, to be fair though, he was a EuroLeague pro from Greece and the Dominican Republic,
Yeah,
and he was on Ball His Life for like
really
5 years.
He was on Ball His Life.
Hey, if he's watching this, give him the L too.
Yeah, we did beat them though.
I did give him the L.
But and Ben said the funniest thing. He goes, it's like halfway through the game. Ben goes, Mel, he's tired. I'm gonna exploit this. I was like, what? I was like,
hey, after I said that though, he didn't score.
Yeah, Ben wasn't lying. Ben was not lying. But no, but you guys see how in those moments, right? In like that one sentence of, hey, I went hooping. I just bought these new shoes. I tried them on and I got crossed somebody up. 3 different instances you can pick from, right? But then also understanding like the depth at which you can go into each topic depends on how close you guys are. Because if it was me and a complete stranger, like I can only go as far as telling them maybe something of an event or when I did go play basketball. But if it's someone I really know, I can go as far as talking about a moment when we were both playing basketball and bring it back to that. So this idea of like you branch from conversations. You have to not just ask questions, but this is more about just having a good conversation, building rapport with someone. If you're talking to them, you can't just ask questions, but you have to add on to what they're saying, and but you also keeping aware to like you will have to remember that if you don't know someone as well, the depth of that won't be as great. But that's just an analysis that I had about conversations. It just blew my mind when I thought about it. I was like, holy. And then instantly I was like, can I write an algorithm for this?
I have a question for you. Because at the beginning you said that sometimes you'll like be in a conversation, and I've totally had this feeling too. And someone's like, it feels like an interview. Like it feels like you're interviewing someone, but it's just like you're just chilling with someone. It's weird. So like, what do you do if like you're asking questions, right? But the other person is A, not asking questions back, and B, kind of giving you shallow answers. Like, how do you get out of that, do you think?
To me, it's like you either like the way I would try to like do that is one is just annoying, but if you're like stuck with that person, you could just, if you're texting them, you could just obviously just stop texting them because it's not worth your time.
Side note, if you're texting someone a lot, text is just not where you have conversations. That's an opinion of mine, but like, yeah, that is not it. Anyways,
but like if you're with that person, obviously in person, you're gonna have to find something provoking. That's really it. Like you're gonna have to find something that makes them go, like, huh? Like, did you? Because I think someone said something like you could either, if like you're having a rough time talking to someone, you could either hit them with like an assumption you make, like, oh, I guess you must be really boring. Like if you're talking to a girl, let's say that.
Yeah.
If you're talking to a girl and she's like dry, and he's like, oh wow, you must have a really boring life or something, and then like that just provokes them. They're like, what do you mean? And they just go off on a tangent about something, right? Or really, that's, to me, that would be the most effective strategy. But second to that, it's just like they're not worth your time. If it's like if you're having to pull that hard to have a conversation with that person, it's just like we just obviously don't have anything to connect with. So yeah, this is my 2 cents.
Yeah, that's funny what you said. Like, I think it's interesting how important sarcasm is in conversation. Because like what you said, like, I don't know, like if a girl was just like, yeah, I just do this, and like her week sounds boring, I'm like, damn, like you're a real character, huh? And it's like you say stupid shit like that, and people are like they're like, no, like that's not what I meant, you know what I mean? And then they kind of like get some like real conversation going. You know, they're like, no, like, and then anyways,
being also able to just like tell a bit of jokes, not like jokes, but have like a humor in a conversation is just so important as well. And sometimes I feel like right now, I'm not trending towards struggling that like, I feel like naturally I can like crack jokes and stuff. But like, I'm just the type of person, like the conversation I want to have is like, I guess I listen to too many old people.
Deep.
It's like deep or like about like what's happening in the world or like economic, like econ, or just because that's all I'm listening to, like with All In and like, Lex Friedman and Joe Rogan, like the type of conversations they're having. Like I'm like, that's what I want to be having with everybody I come across. But we're in college, so sometimes you just have conversations like, yo, what's the next function, man? Yeah. Yo, what this person XYZ doing? It's like, I don't care. I do not care.
I hate the whole like, hey, how was your winter break, bro? I'm like, it was probably the same as yours, honestly.
Oh
like,
my God, bro.
How was your Christmas? Like, it was Christmas. It's the same as it's always been, to be real. Like, I don't, it's like, it's no different. I don't know. Like, if I had something that was really weighing on me, like, I would just tell you. And if I was really elated about something that happened to me lately, like, it would come out in the conversation. Like, you don't got to ask me about how my week has been. I don't know.
It's one of those where it's just like social etiquette, where you just
Yeah.
ask the question. It's like, yeah, it was cool, cool, yeah, whatever. It's like because you spend time with your family, the same thing. I'm also not like the biggest fan of like holidays as well. Like I'm just like it's just like one. And someone put this perfect. I can't remember what video it was. They said it's just like an excuse for people to actually spend time with their family. I was like, damn, you ain't lying though. You are not
I
lying.
mean, when else are you spending time with your family?
Exactly, bro. And I guess it's like the whole, I mean, it's like the whole world stops, stores shut down, you get time off of work to spend it. So, I mean, it's necessary and there's good aspects of it there. But like, I just see holidays as like a really another day that we decided to label as special so we can spend time with our families. Yeah, guys, I don't believe in nihilism, as we'll talk about in depth in our next discussion. But yeah, I just see things as it is. That's really all
As
I.
they are.
You have anything else to add
For the conversation, or just like,
for the? I mean, just for this specific book.
we could talk about this, but I feel like there's something. Oh, well, maybe.
What was
No, it's
pressing?
okay.
What's pressing you, Ben? What's pressing?
It was so we had gone over a few. Let me find it real quick.
People are probably listening, like, man, they just asking if they want to stop talking. I told y'all, this is informal, but I hope we're having a good conversation.
Oh, so like like the tactics to bend someone's reality. I thought
Mhm.
this was actually kind of funny.
Oh,
Like,
really?
not like, I mean, but it's like they're so simple, and the way they work are just like the fact that you just use odd numbers, like that's just such a
Oh, yeah.
like it's just so simple. It's like, yeah, don't say 50, just say like 52.
No,
Like, you know
but
what I mean?
imagine, like, I was just thinking, like, imagine if someone was talking to me and is like, yeah, no, like, I need to borrow $356.97. I'll be like, you have a reason why you want that. Like,
Yeah.
you have a real reason. Like, if someone tells me 400, they're like, I'm like, okay, you're like, okay, like, is in your mind, like, if anybody needs exactly 400, because almost nothing costs exactly 400.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, well, obviously there's like some room for error that you're adding
Yeah.
there or something. But yeah, no, it's really interesting too, like anchoring as well, where if someone's like, yo, Ben, I need $100,000, and you're like, huh?
A hundo?
And I'm like, all right, just 1,000. Then you're like, okay.
Oh, yes, I can do that.
I can do that. Like it's yeah, no, they're all very simple and straightforward. But again, I think that just shows like how emotions and everything just is makes us much more simple creatures than we are. Like once we're able to be content and hold our emotions still and calm, then we like have these. Our brains are beautiful and complex, and we solve amazing problems, and achieve amazing human and like inventions and everything like that. But like even the greatest story about that proves that humans are irrational is the Sir Isaac Newton story about the I think it was the when they first introduced like
I think I know
the
what you're
stock
talking about.
market.
Yeah.
It was the British, it was like the British Irish or Indian something company. It was like this boating, like
Yeah.
they first decided that this company that back in the day, really the companies where they would go to different places and like grab spices and different materials and like you do it on ship, right? And it was like this big company, I can't remember what they called like Indian something British company or whatever, right? And they were
Yeah.
like a boating company, and they decided like issue shares finally. They're the first like stock market or first company to really
Have a
do that.
stock. Yeah.
And so everyone was going crazy because everyone was just buying these shares, and they were like the value of those shares were just going up and up and up and up and up, and like it was euphoric, right? Like the stock market, like when things are booming, right? And so even Sir Isaac Newton himself, like he had put some money in, and he made a good amount of money out, and he sold it and he took it. But then some of his other friends, they continued and can you look up this quote about what Sir Isaac Newton said about like, because he said something, it's like it beautifully embodies it, and I want to end this discussion with it. But so he put in some money, he made like a really good amount of money where he could retire, especially back in that time, and he made a really good amount of money, sells his shares, takes the money, but all of his other friends, they're making a lot of money too. Like they're seeing their money 3x, 4x, 5x, 6x. And so he goes, well, like he starts to get greedy he starts to get greedy about it, and he goes like, okay, well, let me just put my money back in, and he puts it at the top of the bubble burst.
Hmm.
And this man, Sir Isaac Newton, one of the smartest people, not one of like he probably arguably is like one like the smartest person to have ever
He
lived,
literally like
invented calculus and
Newton's laws of physics, like
calculus, like like it's in like to think about too. This was like in what age time period this is like third.
17 early 1700s.
Bro, people didn't even know about the toilet or something back in that time, bro. So he goes back irrationally greedy, puts his money, buys more shares, loses everything, and he dies poor. Think about that. Sir Isaac Newton dies poor. The person that
Did
came
he
up,
actually die poor?
Mhm.
I did not know that.
He died poor.
I thought he
because
just
of
lost
this.
some money and he was like, man.
What was
screw
the
it.
quote?
The quote is, do you want to read it or you?
Let me see.
I think that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah. So Sir Isaac Newton, when asked about the South Sea stock in the spring of 1720, famously declared that he could calculate the motions of heavenly stars, but not the madness of people. Let me say that one more time for you to understand why psychology is important. Sir Isaac Newton said he could calculate, obviously he didn't say that but he could calculate the motions of heavenly stars, but not the madness of people. When I heard that, I was like, wow. I was like
this man legitimately invented new mathematics and different ways of thinking about the world to find out how our world works, but he couldn't figure out
why people would buy shares.
Yeah, like he didn't get it. Like that's
And so if anybody's trying to tell you that they know how to trade stocks in the market or they can make money trading stocks, and especially if they're not a hedge fund with computers that are doing high frequency trading, and they're not Sir Isaac Newton, and even Sir Isaac Newton couldn't do it, don't believe them. Invest your money smartly. Go back and listen to our Laws of Wealth episodes about Laws of Wealth. Learn to put a system down. With all that being said, though, that's all I have to say for this book, really.
That's all I got. If you guys, actually, then that's literally all I got.
Well, one, thank you guys so much for listening. This was long. Obviously, some of our other episodes have been this long, so it's not that crazy.
Bitcoin,
and other ones beforehand as well. But yeah, no, like just know the next discussion that's coming out, long form. I'm talking probably in the range of 2 to 3 hours long. Like I'm gonna come prepared too.
Could be more. We'll see.
Could be more as well. Maybe if it's more than like 2 hours. If it's more than 3 hours, we'll split it. Right.
Definitely, yeah.
But if it's under 3 hours, like even if it's like 2 hours and 30 minutes, we'll keep going. But yeah, it's going to be about 12 Rules of Life. That book is absolutely like mind blowing, revolutionary. Makes you rethink your life. Just so many things. Like, what has the book made you feel, Ben?
I mean, you saw me that one day we came in. I came in one day before we were going to record. This was probably like mid-November. And like, I come in and I was just like stone faced. Like, and I'm not particularly someone who doesn't like, I'm not someone who's very talkative, but I'm also not like, I don't come in and say nothing. I just came in that day and I said nothing for like 15 or 20 minutes while we were setting up. And then I was like,
and I just go like, Ben, you good? He goes like, the book is just like, it's making me think a lot about like just my life and what I want out of it. And I was like, damn, it's like that. And I was like, I didn't understand until I started reading it. And every time I read it, I'll just have to drop the book sometimes, go like, wow.
Yeah. And to give context, I've thought a lot about my life already, like probably more than most 19-year-olds.
Yeah,
have.
me and Ben both.
Yeah,
like,
we both have. And so, geez, like this book is dense. It's amazing. Yeah, we'll talk about. I mean, there's some things that we don't wholly agree with, but I mean, on the whole, I probably can't recommend a better self-help book at the moment, honestly, except maybe 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yeah. But more on that when the book actually, when those episodes come out. Be on the lookout for that. Really good book. But you guys, thank you guys so much for listening to this first ever discussion of the AOD podcast. Maybe not first ever.
Oh, you have a quote to end us?
Oh, we have a quote?
I don't know. I'm asking you.
Oh, I was supposed to come with a quote. Let's see. I mean, you got some quotes.
Oh,
here.
I did put quotes. I make the outlines so far in advance that I like forget about them sometimes.
All right. These are quotes from our Melicus Milius. He Who has learned to disagree without being disagreeable has discovered the most valuable secret of negotiation. That's powerful, actually. Very powerful.
Very profound.
Last one. Negotiate in their world. Persuasion is not about how bright or smooth or forceful you are. It's about the other party convincing themselves that the solution you want is their own idea. So don't beat them down with logic or brute force. Ask them questions that open paths to your goals. It's not about you. Chris Voss. Powerful things to remember. All those just encompassing really what we said. Thank you guys so much for listening to this first ever episode of officially discussion. And we hope to have more great ones and hopefully more great people to talk to with about. With all that being said, can you do the honors, Ben?
Peace.